All right, cool.
Cool. So yeah. Hey everybody.
Micah.
I'm
Hey,
Micah. Yeah.
what's up, guys? I'm
Hey.
Garrett.
Hey guys. Yeah, we're here today to chat with you all primarily about some different things going on in the Ethereum and the NFT space. And yeah, no further ado, let's talk. Um, Garrett, anything you want to make sure we get covered here today, man?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about ERC-20, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and kind of where things are headed with the NFT space specifically. It's a hot topic right now for me. It's kind of where I'm putting a lot of my time and effort and energy, and I would love to get a better understanding of NFTs, where you think they're going from definitely from a smart contract technical perspective, and then yeah, I've got definitely questions. Not I actually am I've been kind of in the Ethereum space for several years, learning about it, and really, really fascinated by it. And I'd love to hear from your perspective. You know, uh, how do you see the future of NFTs, and what are they, and what's the difference? How is it different than regular Ethereum, and maybe uh, what what you see the yeah, definitely focusing on what we can do right now, what actions and what value can we add right now into the space to really, you know, change the world in a small way.
I love it, man. Small ways have ways of becoming profound ways for sure. I think that just like to general riff on ERC-20 and this really technical thing we're talking about, it's good just to kind of give some baby steps for folks who are maybe like only familiar with Bitcoin price action. Um, right now there's a lot of people looking at crypto for the first time because they see Bitcoin number go up, right? Bitcoin number go up and to the right, and people start Googling Bitcoin. And really, all that Bitcoin is a ledger technology that allows for an individual to keep track of who has what money and what account balances. And then the really magical thing about that ledger technology that Bitcoin is that you can take it and you can get a bunch of people connected together so that everyone agrees it is in fact correct. And this is the whole like Bitcoin mining thing and all of that. So basically, like instead of just me saying like, "Hey, Garrett has $10," me and couple thousand other people also say that Garrett has $10 in his account, and we all update that and keep track of it together. Essentially, it's just the first time in human history that we've had the technology to replace banks. It's really, really cool. In the Ethereum side, though, you quickly realize that Bitcoin is kind of like a pet rock. It is just a digital rock that we can track and see everywhere that it's going. And Ethereum is essentially the rocket ship that you can put the pet rock on um, to the moon, man. Basically, what you
I
got
like
though
it.
is, yeah, I might be an Ethereum maximalist. What you have going on though, basically, is that same technology that Bitcoin uses, Ethereum also uses, but it uses it for more than just tracking account balances. You can go into the Ethereum community and you can go into the Ethereum improvement protocol and basically suggest that we track something in a new way. And then if the Ethereum community says, hey, yes, we should in fact track that thing in that way, then you can issue new standards to track things by inside of Ethereum. All of these you can see on GitHub. If you're technical, a developer, you want to build a DApp, smart contract, whatever you need to do, go to GitHub. All the different ones that I'm about to cover are in fact there. But wanted to give, just a general riff on really the top like three, I'll touch probably on the top 4 or 5 different ways outside of just tracking account balances that you can use Ethereum. Um, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about when I'm saying other than account balances. This is where we're doing things like tracking, say like legal contracts and moving all of these tokenized things you hear like the futurist people talk about. That's really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these different, you know, protocols for Ethereum. So yeah, just getting in there and Garrett, like if I get in the clouds or need to clear something up, like please don't mind, butt in and get in on there.
Yeah, I mean, we can take it to like a high level. I guess what are the 5 ways? What are those different ways to get into Ethereum? And maybe I think a lot of people have that basic understanding, but my own understanding is that Ethereum is the future of not only decentralized finance, but a lot of other things as well. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned law, from art to law. I mean, that's a huge gamut we're talking about. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about where you see and go into the clouds and go as deep as you can and just, yeah, let's hear it.
All right, cool, man. So yeah, first, like, there's a couple of different token protocols. All of them have a really technical name. All of their technical names start with ERC. And just so we all know what ERC stands for, that just stands for Ethereum Request for Comment. It's just like, hey, Ethereum, is it okay for, this guy who owns this house to move his tokenized house to this man's ownership? You are requesting Ethereum to comment on a transaction, and Ethereum will comment on it in that protocol's standard. And then there's just a couple of different standards. The most common standard that you'll see folks use, if you go to like CoinGecko or anywhere and you look at all the top coins, you're going to see Bitcoin at the top, you're going to see Ethereum right after that, and then you'll see a bunch of other stuff. Almost all of those are ERC-20 projects. And really what an ERC-20 project is it is a smart contract issued on the Ethereum blockchain, and it will have fungible tokens associated with that smart contract. So like if I wanted to create my own currency, I can literally just go and deploy a smart contract. So it'll be like a long hexadigital address that I send to Ethereum, and I say, hey, this is the start of something new. This is the start of Micah Baylor coin or whatever my startup's going to be. And we are going to have, this ticker, maybe my ticker is like MBX instead of like USD. We're going to have this many tokens. And looking at token supply is definitely a really important thing. Like people see something like Ripple, which is getting a lot of news right now, and they don't realize that the token supply, they have like a billion tokens just sitting in cold storage. They haven't even put on the market yet. So, one, saying, hey, recognizable name like my ticker, how many tokens I'm going to issue, and then also you can choose how many decimals out a token can trade at. Like, Bitcoin can trade down to like the 18th fraction. So not like pennies, like the US dollars where you have, dimes and then pennies, but 16 more points after that is kind of like where most coins are at. So it allows for fractional transactions and fractional, value to be transferred. Really cool. I think just to kind of like contextualize it, ERC-20 folks should understand that those are going to be fungible tokens. And fungible versus non-fungible is really one of the common themes through all the different protocols I'm going to chat about. What fungible means is just that any item of the same value is transferable for the same value, regardless of how long that token has been, say, on Ethereum or how it's been used. The easy example, I think, is to look at like paper dollars. Paper dollars are fungible items in life. If I give you $100 that was printed in 1990, you are just as happy to receive that $100 bill as you would be if I gave you a $100 bill that was printed in 2020. They're fungible. They are the same. They both carry the same value. So the type of folks you'll see, use ERC-20 tokens is just folks who are trying to launch something that's maybe more akin to like a stock, where it's like, hey, if you buy one share of my token, you have one share of stock. Of course, the cool thing being that you can put that out fractionally. So you could own a fraction of a token, which would be, just in like English terms, you may be used to like a fraction of a stock, equal to same value. Yeah, that's pretty much ERC-20, the most commonly used ones. I think it's important to understand that inside of those tokens, you can put a lot of different things. People will do different things like embed smart contracts into those tokens so that something get carrying value may interact with another thing and still carry that same value. So like in my concept, I plan to issue tokens to folks that are ERC-20 tokens when they deposit funds into a vault. And then when that ERC-20's contract is executed, it will burn the token and it will release the funds inside of the vault to a third party. This is kind of a way to do ticketing on the blockchain where I want to say always charge like $1 fee for my ticket. And then you buy that ticket with currency, whatever currency that may be. And then that token burns, because of the smart contract embedded inside of it when you use that ticket, rendering you needing to go back and buy another one.
So, okay, so the word burn, can you define that? What does that mean in this context?
Burning a token is exactly what it sounds like. It goes off the blockchain and no longer exists. So, a lot of what you have to think about is scarcity. We have to maintain scarcity of a currency. Like right now, I think one of the reasons people are looking at crypto is they're super terrified about just rampant inflation. Something like 24, it's a lot of the dollars that are in total existence, like 24% of every dollar that's ever been printed has been printed in 2020. So,
Yeah, and I think it's going higher with the newest announcement. So yeah, we're talking that if you had money, if you had $100,000 saved a year ago, that money's now worth $70,000 if you had it sitting in cash.
Yeah, because dollars are less scarce. So one of the cool things with programmable money and smart money is we can tell it to do what we want to do, like burn when there's too many of them, so that we can always know there's just this many Micah Baylor coins in existence. By the way, I'm not calling them Micah Baylor coins. That project's yet to launch. I wouldn't name them that.
I think someday we'll have a MB coin hat.
MBX, it's gonna be. So
I like
great.
your hat, by the way. Kindness is magic. It's beautiful.
Thanks, man. Yeah, just pushing vibrations out, getting them back. Any questions on ERC-20, or
yeah,
do you feel like in a nutshell you got it?
Essentially, so I love the word fungible. So it must come from Latin fungi or whatever. So meaning like all is one, or use, as you said, it's exchangeable. So it doesn't matter when it was, or I mean, the value is consistent. And so you can trade the money to me and it's all the same. So it's this even playing field. That's where we come from. That's our understanding of money. Anyone who, has grown up in the United States or Canada or anywhere practically can understand that as the baseline. And so the system is essentially saying we come from this fiat currency, we're moving into this a similar system, except that we can record the transactions and create these smart contracts, these essentially these code snippets, right? That can launch when you maybe just give me a 30-second explanation of why a smart contract is such a big deal, and like what is an example of a smart contract?
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about like remissions for a second. Like right now, if a person needs to send, say like a person works in the US and they want to send money home to their family in Brazil, and they take their paycheck, they go down to the Western Union, like it's 1990 or something, and they give them their $500 or sending home, whatever it may be, a dollar goes a lot further in other parts of the world. They give them the money they got, and they pay say like a $50 fee for a $500 transaction, and that typically is not remitted to that person in whatever country it is, the family in Brazil, until like a 4 or 5 day holding period, and then that person has to go like pick up the money, and like local governments and nation states, who knows what they do also to that money. There's a bunch of problems there. You could also create, say, like a smart contract that says, hey, whenever X happens, send mom's Ethereum address $500 worth of ETH. And that could all happen without anyone doing anything and paying only an Ethereum gas fee. Um, gas fees, granted, that's a whole other conversation. Sometimes those are like 50 cents, and sometimes those are like, I almost said like $100. I actually haven't seen one over like $30 in a little bit. So maybe I'm lucky on that side. But a smart contract is essentially just that. It is a way to code any transaction into Ethereum so that when X is true, Y happens. Um, you can get really, really creative with that. You can literally just riff on smart contracts for hours on end. I believe that they'll be used to automate a lot of money. Um, if you look at like the original sin of the internet, it did not give us a point-based system that really allowed us to have digital cash. And because of that reason, we're still using monetary systems that were invented in like Julius Caesar's time, the first dude to stamp his head on the coin, and like we still have the same thing going on.
Yeah, to give
And what
an
we can
example,
move to
maybe for
is
someone who like in the last 20 years, if you had a
save me, buddy. Yeah.
VHS, if you remember VHS and you had to rewind something, that's the kind of system that fiat currency is on, and we're now on cloud-based digital where you're no longer. I mean, everything is abundant, everything is just there, and you don't. We're done with. We went through VHS to to DVD and CDs to flash drive, and now we're on the cloud. And fiat currency is still back on VHS. So when we're talking about converting currency, we're like having to rewind the tape. We're having to put in the tape. We're having to take it out. We're having to, to record something like a movie, a digital movie on like that was created in completely on the computer to put it back onto VHS just doesn't make sense. So that's kind of where fiat is.
Wow, that was stellar, man. I'm just over here like, oh, VHS analogy. Yeah, I will use that. I'll credit you at least once. You know what I mean? That was beautiful. Um, so yeah, just basically that's ERC-20. One of the things that I'm super stoked about is the next two little protocols I'll review here. Um, and those are going to basically be everything that is non-fungible. And going into next year, going into 2021, I'm super bullish on Ethereum, but most so bullish on NFTs and non-fungible tokens. I believe that next year is the year of the NFT to really make its breaking into the scene. So if you're listening to this and it's still 2020, you're early to the scene. You're still early if you hear this like before 2030, but Uh, the two most commonly used versions of non-fungible token NFTs are going to be ERC-721 and ERC-1155. And they're almost exactly the same thing. So I'll explain them kind of like in broad terms, and then we can get into some upgrades that 1155 made versus ERC-721. My favorite analogy for a ERC-721 and differentiating it from an ERC-20 token, so non-fungible versus fungible. Non-fungible tokens, they may be the same item, but we need to be able to differentiate between the two tokens. This, I think, is analogous to, say, like buying a Tesla. If you go and buy a Tesla, hey, it may be exactly the same as the one that Garrett bought 6 months ago, but Garrett's Tesla has a coffee stain in the back seat because he's got 2 kids. And my Tesla is brand new, no kids, no coffee stain in the back seat. So I need to be able to tell the difference between these two things that look exactly the same, but I need to be able to tell that, hey, one came out 6 months ago, one's brand spanking new. This one's worth $200,000. This one's worth 150 grand because it has some wear and it has some tear. There might be a difference in value, even though they are the same thing. Now, a couple of examples of things you can go and just look at as far as what ERC 721 tokens are. The most popular project is called CryptoKitties. And this is an example of one, like tokens holding value and being different from each other, having age, and also an idea of smart contracts. This came out like in, I want to say it was a 2017 cray, maybe it's 2018. But basically a person issued like breeds of kitties onto the Ethereum blockchain just to kind of like prove a concept. And the different kittens, they're kind of like collectible cards, they hold different values, and you can send your cards together to produce new cards via smart contracts. So if I have, a white cat and Garrett's got a black cat, and we put them together, the smart contract can spit out a spotted cat. I need to be able to tell, which ones are super popular so that maybe those are worth less, so which ones are less common so that maybe those are worth more, how old they are, et cetera, et cetera. I think that you will see these types of things used wildly inside of games. Like Garrett's big in VR. VR gaming, I think, is a massive future. Let's say that he wants to issue a sword that you need to kill, the big boss. But I need to be able to know that that sword is like the latest edition, or hey, your sword got old and rusty and you got to go and sharpen it up so you can go kill the big boss. And then also I know that, hey, I only issued 100 of those onto the blockchain. So guess what? Like, they're worth a lot of money. I mean, online gaming already is carrying a lot of value, and this is a way for those collectible items to be proved as scarce and to really carry, even more value. So yeah, general riff on ERC-721, I think, is that. And then ERC-1155, essentially almost the same thing. A couple of upgrades that were made is they upgraded the way that you deploy the contract so that you can deploy a contract once and have up to 200 different NFTs inside of that transaction. So like if Garrett was going to build a VR game and he needed like swords and helmets and shields and clubs, whatever you're going to build there, he would have to issue a transaction onto Ethereum 200 times if he had 200 different items for each different item to be recognized by Ethereum. Whereas in an ERC-1155 token, he could say, hey, I have these 200 different items I want to be tracked in this way, and he can issue it just once instead of having to issue it 200 times. Basically, ERC-721's.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, ERC-20, ERC-721, and ERC-1155. The 11, it's almost like they're encapsulating each other. So at 1155, you're able to essentially build stack on top of 721. Is that so? You're taking a bunch of those. So a game like CryptoKitties, you said you can have up to 200 contained within that. Can you explain that a little bit? I guess I'm not understanding the 1155 one yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so basically it's everything that 721 is, but instead of, like, let's use a real life analogy. If you were ordering something from Amazon, a 721, you like put the one thing in your cart and you have to go all the way through checkout and have them send you a box. And then if you were going to order like 10 things that day, you would have to go and individually order and check out each individual item. And then with Amazon, I guess it's actually going to be the next day. You're going to have 10 cardboard boxes, there at your house. ERC-1155 allows you to put up to 200 things inside of your cart and then hit buy and get, well, depending on sizes, but you're going to get one box tomorrow. It's going to be a really big box. So that saves you a lot in gas fees, because like if you were going to deploy a game with, say, 10,000 different items, maybe I want, like the characters, the clothes, and the items inside of that game to be scarce, I would have to individually transact each one and pay a fee each time I transact that. Whereas if I wanted to issue, 10,000 items to the blockchain, I could just use an ERC-1155, and that would, cut my transactions down by, 200 to 1. Does that make any sense at all?
So you can have up to 200. So you just gave the example of 10,000. So could I issue, let's say I make a sword in a game and I put it or I create an NFT with this sword. So I make it so I can issue 10,000 swords. Then the gas fee, instead of paying 10,000 times, like that's what ERC-721 is doing, I have to pay each time I give away a sword to somebody and they give me an exchange back with, let's say they pay in Ethereum or ETH,
Right.
then they, instead I can issue out in this package deal. Can each individual pull from that NFT without the fee as well?
Yeah, if I understand your question, yes. Basically, like instead of having to transact 10,000 times, you would transact only 50 times in batches of 200. And then in those batches of 200, you might transact them in like groups. Like you might transact your 200 different swords, your 200 different helmets, your 200 different, X, Y, and Z.
So
And then
if we
inside
went
of those
back
little
to the,
batches, you would have.
oh, sorry, I think our timing's a little off. I think, uh, yeah, I apologize. I think
We
the
over
internet
talking
is
you
like,
a little bit?
yeah, I am so sorry. It's like
No, you're good.
there's like a 3-second pause. So so I just like drew up this little chart. I don't know if it's possible to see. It's not, is it? Um, it's
I can see it.
so I did the crypto kitties with the Amazon example, and then you're doing like batches on the 1155. So essentially you could put those crypto kitties into these little batches, as opposed to just doing one at a time. You're bunching everything together. So what's the main, if you were to sum that up in one I guess sentence, what is the main benefit of someone using 1155 over 721? Or are they just different and you use both in separate instances or uh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like I would use 721 if I was making like a single transaction. Let's say like a future real estate holding company is a company that allows you to tokenize your home. So you can put the value of your home into a token. And in Ethereum, this is super important because having your net worth on the blockchain is really what gives you access to borrowing and lending. Um, so, massively important for economies. So like, let's say someone wanted to tokenize their home, they're only going to need to make a single transaction. They're going to spit their home, the value and the ownership rights of their home out to the Ethereum. And then if they ever sell their home, they'll sell that for maybe crypto, maybe a stable token, but then they would send that token to the next owner of the home. And in that case, hey, unless you have like a problem where you have 200 homes, you would really only need one transaction. So I would likely be like a future real estate company who uses a lot of 721. Whereas if I'm like into digital gaming and I'm going to have, like the analogy again of like the swords and the helmets, I might want to have, 50 different swords, 50 different helmets, 50 different breastplates, and 50 different, little sashes for my warriors. And I could put, the rights and the different tokenomics of each of those items into a single transaction and send it out to the cloud. If that makes sense. Send it out to the ether, to ether.
So you send, you create, so I'm an artist, let's say,
Mhm.
I create something, I send it out, and then how does someone get that sword from my my Ethereum that I've created, my NFT?
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say that you had made a game. They may just buy it from the shop inside of your game. Like right now inside of Fortnite, you can play for free. But if you really want to be cool, you go and you buy like the cool different little skins and the different weapons and whatnot. So a person would just go to the shop and they would purchase it, with Ethereum there in their wallet. A lot of folks these days use MetaMask to interact with websites that are Web3 enabled. Um, so yeah, this sounds like a lot of Greek. Go and get MetaMask. And then essentially you would just have your wallet as an extension on your browser. You would go to a website that can see you have a wallet with you. And then you could buy things from there and then also hold those things in your wallet that's on your browser. So you might have like Ethereum, some wrapped Bitcoin, whatever tokens you want, but then also your collectibles inside of your wallet. Just like now, you might have like a photo of your significant other and some dollars in your wallet. In future space, you would have a digital wallet, you'd have all of your currencies on it, and maybe even literally all of your things. Um, Maybe like a real life example, like physical things, making it tangible. Let's say that I am like a custom tailor who lives in the year 2050 when everything has gone so digital that people like the idea of touchy feely, like handmade things. Like that becomes really special and trendy again. I may have a VR shop online where people can go and they can view different tokens and they can see how that might even fit them. They may even have all of their shoes and their pants tokenized in their own wallet. And they could be like, hey, I wonder what my pants would look like with this jacket that I'm looking at. And they would slide those tokens into like a viewfinder in a VR world. And the value of those jackets, let's say that they're handmade, they're tailor-made, they carry a certain value and they're issued in, like the year 2050, depending on like the career of that tailor, who knows, they may become worth like a lot of money. Who knows, they may just get old and decrease in value. But I would issue probably say like 200 jackets that are in this line, and I'm going to do that with an ERC-1155 protocol because I just want to issue it once. But then each of those individual jackets that I carry in my, my token wallet, my digital wallet, my Ethereum wallet, each one tracks differently. Like the wear and tear is different. Maybe you could report that like, hey, it's stained and that shows up on the token. It's literally just like endless. But ERC-1155 and 721 are basically just different protocols to put all of the value of anything into the Ethereum protocol, which I think comes back to really the spirit of Ethereum, which is, decentralizing and liquidating value transfer and giving the rights of value transfer back to just normal folks like you and me. Does that make more sense? Did we get it, man?
Yeah, this is definitely a super good explanation. So I'm a very visual, and so in my mind, I want to take this and kind of do something with it visually.
Episode 2, man. Episode 2.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing I think that to really understand is how keeping this as a transaction, it's not just between you and Amazon. Maybe you can talk a little bit towards like how the peer-to-peer is. So a transaction between you and me, and not having to go through Amazon or one of these other intermediaries. What does that look like on let's just take it to ERC-721 basic transaction between peer to peer. How does that look like, and how is that different from ERC-20?
Yeah, that's kind of a huge question. You may trade different assets differently. I think fundamentally understanding how assets are valid or how transactions are validated on Ethereum is probably the place to start, and then I can kind of shoot off different ways. Right now, Ethereum uses what essentially every blockchain uses, and that is called a proof of work algorithm. Proof of work basically just means that there's a couple thousand folks who run nodes, and these are the strange people you hear about out there mining cryptocurrencies. Essentially what they are doing is they are running that technology ledger we referenced at the beginning of the call. They run exactly the same ledger as everybody else who's on their given blockchain, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, Neo, whatever blockchain we're talking about. And essentially what happens whenever I make a transaction is, hey, I want to send Garrett $10. I send up to the Ether that I am going to send $10 from my account to Garrett, saying you deduct it from my account, move it to Garrett's account. A miner, a person running a node, will essentially grab that transaction and say, hey, does Micah have $10? Yes. Okay, update Micah's account down $10, update Garrett's account up $10. They'll trans that out to every single other node just to make sure their ledger is not wrong. And they'll be like, hey, is this okay? I'm about to do this, guys. And so long as 51% of those guys say, hey, man, totally cool. Micah's got $10 and he can give it to Garrett, it automatically updates the other 49% who haven't even seen it. And now all of them can see that $10 moved. There's a lot of words to say that there is a way to update account balances without the traditional financial system we've had for the longest time now, where I send that request to my bank, who charges me for the privilege of holding my own money, right? Like, come on. Right now, where I send that transaction to my bank and my bank says, hey, yes, minus Micah $10 plus Garrett $10. Us having this technology just means that we don't have to trust the bank anymore. We just don't need them. I am currently on a very habitual just attack of eliminating every bank I have in my life. I'm going fully onto the blockchain, going bankless. And what you have is essentially that technology, proof of work, is being upgraded massively by Ethereum. Beginning of December, they released wave 0 of a 2 more steps left. So wave 1 and wave 2 still to come, but they will move to a proof of stake protocol. Proof of stake being different from proof of work, where instead of me sending the request to a person running an actual computer, I just send my request to the Ethereum community, essentially. And everybody who has staked, staking is kind of like super futuristic savings accounts. People who have staked their Ethereum into a Ethereum verifier, essentially, will all vote on the transaction instead of checking their nodes to see if a transaction is in fact correct. This just allows for Ethereum to be like the greenest and the best for the environment because it's running way less electricity on, say, something like Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. It's also like way more secure because it allows for anyone to participate in saying yes or no, this is a good transaction or not. So it takes you from having, say, like 2,000 validators to 20, 30,000 validators. Massive upgrade, making it super secure. What you have, though, is those different tokens may trade in different ways. Right now, I would say the best example of a decentralized trading platform is going to be Uniswap. Shout out to like everyone who knows what that is. But Uniswap is essentially a place where people trade ERC-20 assets. And the way that happens, since really we're trading things that are supposed to be akin to currencies or stocks, is people come along and they provide liquidity to a smart contract. So that means like if Garrett wants to launch his token, GHX, and he's going to peg that to Ethereum, so that means ETH to GHX transactions should be eligible. People would come and say, dump a bunch of Ethereum in a smart contract. People would come and dump a bunch of GHX coin into the same smart contract. And you'd have 50-50 equal amounts of that value locked there. So I'd have 100 grand in Ether and 100 grand in GHX. And basically that just provides liquidity so that people can trade peer-to-peer without having to worry about like me getting some Ethereum, but not giving Garrett his GHX. like me not completing my end of a trade. There's like a smart contract in the middle that holds a lot of value so that, people can swap peer to peer in a safe manner. Um, of course, people providing liquidity, they get rewarded. They get, fees and transactions, and that's where this whole yield farming thing really comes from. If you've heard about that, that's probably its own podcast. But really, like, objects that are supposed to be traded in a monetary sense may be traded differently than like in an NFT sense. An NFT may just be a thing where it's like, hey, I have my house, it's right here in this token, and I need to send it to Garrett's wallet address. I'm going to be running on an ERC-721 protocol. ERC, again, just meaning Ethereum request for comment. So I would just say, hey, Ethereum, I'm requesting that you comment that I do have this house on this token, and I am sending this token to Garrett. And that would just happen right over to his account like any other ETH transaction would, where it goes to, in the future, the pool of people who have staked ETH into the ETH protocol. And those people all vote and say, hey, yes, Micah does in fact own a home. It is in fact on Ethereum, and we are transferring that token now to Garrett. So to answer the question 3 different ways, did I get you, man? Did that lift the fog, or
Yeah,
did I add more
yeah.
fog?
No, that's great. So essentially, right now we are dependent. Something I'm going through right now. You mentioned real estate a couple of times. I think it is easier, especially for people to think in who aren't in the digital space like I am, to think more about the material world, because it is a little bit easier since we're so used to it. The A house. So how does Ethereum transform real estate in the future? From where it is now. Is that something that you can speak to?
Yeah, man. I mean, this is what we're talking about right now, with really the convergence of exponential technologies. Because, guys, like, we're talking about insane futuristic stuff that is just way crazy out there. And we're only talking about blockchain and Ethereum. We're not talking about VR. We're not talking about AI. We're not talking about any of the other insane things that are happening in the world right now. Yeah, yeah. Imagine that you have an AI that paints the different downtowns of New York, and you have different companies that are competing for what the skyline of New York is going to look like. And those AIs are just spitting out insane looking stuff like, hey, I want it to have this vibe, this feel, and it just completely changes the buildings that the development company A versus B is proposing. It automatically mocks up different buildings and puts them into NFTs. So if you own that NFT, you own the digital version of that, you own the blueprints, you own the value, and you can start negotiating and building the actual tower. You could, use it for project management, right? And essentially it could just be that, like, hey, this AI produced this skyline and they voted no on that one, but we voted yes on this one. I mean, holy cow, man, like, it's just endless, like, it becomes fluid when you really let value become fluid, that it's not something that stops. You could just talk endlessly. Because now, like, the value of that building is tokenized and I have a digital one, and I can say, hey, this is the one that's becoming real, and send it to the construction company, and they execute the contract and build the building. That's crazy. You could
Well,
also have things like, go ahead.
I was going to say, but to use that example, when you say the AI creates it, I think that's going to be definitely hard for anyone who hasn't studied AI to understand. You can actually create, let's say I draw a shape, and I want the building to be kind of this shape. Then you can actually put that into an algorithm, which then creates multiple shapes, and you say, well, I want to take kind of this building that kind of looked like this. I want to take this building that kind of looks like this, and and I like how this forest looks. And then you can kind of, the AI can kind of swirl it together and then spit out like 50 different versions, and then you say that one's sweet, you can essentially create into this 3D mock-up, and now the AI is designing alongside you, and it's just, I mean, this is, we're talking about true design, where the designer is injecting their genius, but you're bringing in all the other designers that you love. And now you're talking about, okay, as that merges exponentially with blockchain, we're getting this really interesting dynamic that Mike is talking about. So you're essentially, you're saying that once you put something on the blockchain, like real estate, you have a digital version, you have a physical version, and you even have the assets in between what it took to go from digital to physical. And all of those things you can package up and sell, and each of those things has value. And that's where the non-fungible comes in, the non-fungible token, where it is this thing, this is the only one of these things that exists. And yeah, I guess, does that all make sense, or am I off anywhere?
I think that makes sense. And whoa, your addition of AI and real estate is bonkers. That's awesome. Like to think that, you could have all the architects that you love from throughout history, not even just the people who work in your firm. They could be essentially commenting on your designs via the AI. That's bananas. Um, like one last little quick thing on the future of real estate. I believe as we move more of our assets to tokens, we have that value on Ethereum. I can prove that my, you know, $1 million crap home in San Francisco is on the blockchain. You could move that, $1 million. Like right now, that's just it's not a liquid asset. You'll hear talk of, you'll hear people talk about their net worth, but really that's not the amount of money they have access to. Their net worth is illiquid. It's stuck up in a house. In Ethereum, though, if I can take my $1 million home and I can go and deposit into a protocol that allows for borrowing and lending, I may be able to take out that $1 million at, say, like a 4% interest rate, something super low, and go and dump it into protocols that yield me, 15, 20% returns. So I could have the value of my home pay me. Like I could have the value of my home pay my property taxes. In just like simple terms, once we tokenize things and we create that value as a liquid asset, we can liquidize the value. It's just, it's endless, man. Like the future is abundant and it's no longer a zero sum game. Really since the dollar decoupled from gold and it stopped being money and it started being currency, we've been playing more of a zero sum game. And I just see this as, the future that brings in abundance and allows us to really just play a game where you win and I win. Me doing something good for me can also be good for you. Crazy humanity, man. Um,
Yeah, that's it's incredible what we can do when we collaborate together instead of compete. It's definitely it's things that you never thought were possible are actually becoming possible with the merging of these technologies, and just an idea that somebody can move into action like that. Um, yeah, I'm loving what you're putting down. Keep putting it down, man.
Cool, brother. Yeah, for sure. If you just need to hear me talk in general, I'll plug the website. You can just go to micahbaylor.com and sign up for a consult if you need some help with your project or whatnot. But yeah, there's that. I have two other like little ERC-20 tokens that some people use, but they're not like drastically different than any of the other ones we've talked about. So I'll just throw those out here at the end. One of those is ERC-223. ERC-223 is basically just an upgraded ERC-20 contract that's a little bit smarter. The only thing that's better about it is like if I send money right now from an ERC-20 token to a wallet that does not take ERC-20 tokens, that token will just be lost in cyberspace for forever. It's just gone. So like if you didn't know
Oh, it's
what
a
you were
sad
doing
day.
and you sent your, I lost my money on the internet. Ah, you can still see it out there, just stuck. You just couldn't use it. But ERC-223 would, it just is a little bit smarter. It can see that the wallet it's going to isn't compatible, and it'll just reject that wallet and come back to you. So that's cool. And then another one is 827, ERC-827, which is essentially the same thing, but they can carry not just transactions, but also data. So like, let's say that I won't have anyone submit a transaction unless they had enough money to avoid transactions and fee. I could require that not just a transaction, but the data proving they have enough money to kind of also talk to each other and be a little bit smarter. Those though don't really drastically change the world around us, like ERC-20, 721, 1155, and tokenizing our things. They can drastically change the way you and I live. The difference between 223 and 827 is really just like, hey, go talk to the technical team and they'll tell you which one's best for your project. But yeah, there's loads more, coins. Those are definitely just the top like 5 in my opinion.
Say
Well,
that one more
also just
time.
in fact, because it's true.
What was the coin that you said?
Well, there's 223 and 820. There's 223 and 827. I was just saying there's like loads more different types of ERC tokens. Those are the most commonly used. And if you have an idea, like some way that you think value should be transferred differently, then you could also go to the Ethereum improvement protocol and you could suggest that as an idea and the community could approve it. Different from now, where it's like if you want Google to work differently, good luck. Like Google's going to work the way it works. And, in this future, democratized voting society that is the blockchain, that it can be the Ethereum and crypto communities that we're building out. Hey man, if you want to trade value in a different way from what's available from the ways we've talked about, just go make your own token and yeah, make life better for the people around you. So yeah, we're coming up on an hour, man. It's easy for me to talk about.
Dude, I could probably talk
This
I
stuff,
could probably talk about Ethereum for a long time, and especially exponential technology. Thank you for your time. I'm more than happy to keep going, or we can wrap it up. I guess, did we get our goal? Did we talk about what we wanted to talk about, and are we yeah, did we wrap up in a good way? Is there anything else that we left on the table?
It definitely, if you're listening to this and you have questions about the stuff we said, then put those in the comments below because we'll just make more episodes. Your questions are essentially episodes. So yeah, keep questions flowing. Over here though, man, like I bullet pointed the stuff that I thought was really essential, and I feel like I've hit my bullet points. So I feel
Yeah.
great. I would love to do this with you again though. This is a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you. I'd love to. I think that there's definitely something happening where we can create a lot of value in this space, and I yeah, I love meeting people like you. I'm glad that Michael Mercy introduced me to you and was kind enough to, create that nice little community, and the abundance community, Stephen Kotler's community are kind of flowing together and doing some pretty awesome things. And it is truly talking about exponential things. When I come back and I talk to about this stuff to just everyday people, they're like, what? Who are you? Like, what are you? What is this stuff that you're talking about? Oh, like we don't need banks? Who, like what? Yeah.
Yeah, right. You sound like Bill Gates on the Letterman show, and I think it was like 1990. He was talking about how like you could listen to music on the internet, and Letterman's like, "Yeah, but I have a radio." He like, "You tripped out, hippie. What's wrong with you? Why would you listen to music on the radio?" And it's just so cool that there are these communities of people out there right now. Stephen Kotler is Zero to Dangerous, and the Abundance Digital community. Like there's already communities out there who are, supporting each other, building these projects. And that's not even to talk about like how big the crypto community is already. I mean, Ethereum's already like a $60 billion asset. And that is just people who hold Ethereum and who are building on Ethereum. And yeah, the future is essentially now.
Yeah,
It's today,
absolutely.
team. Let's start building.
It's great. I love this. If you're technical, Solidity is something that you could look into. There's I think it's a zombie game or something like that where you can learn how to build on Solidity.
Yeah,
And then
crypto zombies.
Crypto Zombies, super fun,
Yeah,
easy to know, especially if you already know Python. It was really really nice. And then for the artistic people, or the yeah, so artistic people definitely, this merging where Unreal Engine is going to come, and really, I think decentralized animation studios are going to be a big thing in the future. Where Pixar changed everything in the '90s. I think this is the new revolution of animation, and at first we might have some centralization, and that's where a lot of the money is, with Facebook and Google, Microsoft, Apple. These guys are very centralized, but I think that's where a lot of the intelligence is going, and it's going to start unfolding to these just decentralized and distributed networks, and really beautiful things to come. But yeah, thank you, Micah, for your time and your knowledge, and I really look forward to keep on this exchange, because I think this is how the world changes in small ways.
yeah, man. We can chat more again all the time. Always happy to do that. Yeah, let me know.
All right. Thank you
Until
for your
next
time.
time, then, man.
All
Yeah.
right. See ya. Let me stop recording.
It's yeah.
Or
I
did you
was
want to
like,
say any last thing?